In Module 3, you heard the 7 certification criteria that credit unions must meet to become certified. In this module, we will review the 4 criteria that credit unions need to focus on. But first, let's discuss 3 of the 7 certification criteria which credit unions meet automatically. The organization must be a legal entity. It must be a financing entity. It must not be or be controlled by any government entity. Credit unions meet the criteria for legal entity because they receive charters from NCUA or the state regulators. These charters enable credit unions to conduct legal business. Credit unions meet the criteria for a financing entity because all credit unions are in the business of providing loans to their members. Credit unions meet the criteria for must not be or controlled by any government entity, because neither the federal or state government control the elections or appointments of the board of directors. Next, Michelle Dickens, Senior Program Analyst with the CDFI Fund, will discuss the remaining 4 certification criteria.
Of the 7 certification criteria, I'm going to focus on these 4: primary mission, target market, accountability, and development services. First up, primary mission. In general, this is not a difficult criteria for most CDFIs to meet, credit unions included. The basic requirement is that the CDFI must have a primary mission of promoting community development, clearly stated in board-approved organizational documents. The most challenging part is often just tracking down the executed original copies of these documents. That being said, there is a special provision for some credit unions. A credit union that has been designated by NCUA as a low-income credit union may be deemed to have met the primary mission requirement for the CDFI certification. All the credit union has to do is provide evidence of its LICU designation. What are target markets? Target markets are the way the CDFI Fund describes the underserved and those lacking access to capital and credit. Target markets fall into 2 general categories: investment areas and targeted populations. Investment areas are geographic areas that meet certain economic distress criteria, such as poverty rate, income level, and unemployment rate. Targeted populations are identifiable groups of people that lack access to capital and credit. For example, the CDFI Fund has determined that low-income people lack access to capital and credit, so low income is a targeted population. The CDFI must serve at least 1 target market, as the CDFI Fund has defined them. The CDFI must demonstrate through data analysis of its financing activities that at least 60% of its financial product transactions are directed to its identified target market. Please note that if a transaction meets the definition of more than 1 type of target market, it is only counted once when calculating the percentage of transactions directed to the CDFI's target market. In order to demonstrate that transactions are being directed to the target market, a CDFI must have a methodology for verifying that transactions are actually going to the target market. For example, for CDFIs serving investment area target markets, the most common verification methodology is to geocode the addresses of the CDFI's transactions. For serving low-income targeted population target markets, the most common verification method is to review borrower income documents such as tax returns, pay stubs, etc. When conducting analysis on its financing activities, to determine the level of activity directed to the target market, the CDFI has 2 options. The CDFI may use a complete set of data and count all the transactions directed to the target market. However, that methodology may be overly onerous, especially for many credit unions which may have thousands of transactions. To remedy these circumstances, the CDFI may also use estimates to perform the necessary analysis. Many credit unions with large volumes of transactions have used statistical sampling methodologies to create estimates.
You just heard the target market criteria. and particularly the low-income targeted population. Because that sounds similar to the NCUA low-income designation, I just wanted to differentiate the two. So NCUA's low-income designation, in order to be eligible, a credit union has to have more than 50% of its members meet NCUA's definition of low income. So how does that relate to CDFI certification? Remember that CDFI certification is conferred by the CDFI fund, and target market is their version of underserved community. But remember that target market is only one of 7 eligibility requirements for certification. The other difference is, under the target market requirement, it's a different measurement. Their target market requires that more than 60% of the financing activities be deployed to the target market, while a low-income designation might help get to the CDFI target market criteria. It's not exactly the same. I hope that helps to clarify.
Next, let's have a look at the accountability criteria. This criteria helps ensure the target market has a voice and is heard by the CDFI. It helps connect the CDFI to its target market. The CDFI must be accountable to each target market that it serves. For example, it may have an investment area target market and a low-income targeted population target market, and accountability must be established for each separately. In the next few slides, we'll review how accountability is established. I want to go over a special provision for credit unions. If the majority of a credit union's membership are members of a target market, and the credit union's board of directors is elected by the membership, then the board of directors may be deemed to be accountable to that target market. This is very unique to credit unions, as we know credit unions elect their governance bodies by the membership, so this can be a much simpler way to establish accountability. If your credit union is unable to take advantage of this special accountability provision for credit unions, we have a general set of accountability options available to all applicants. Accountability may be established through the members of a governing board or an advisory board, or through some other mechanisms.
The last certification criteria we'll discuss is development services. Development services are activities that help the CDFIs qualify for and access the CDFI's financial products. The basic requirement for this criteria include that the CDFI must offer one or more development service in conjunction with at least one financial product. And there must be a clear link between the development services and the financial product. Moreover, the CDFI must control the provision of development services. The CDFI can provide development services itself using its own staff. It can also provide them through an affiliate. The CDFI fund defines affiliates as an entity controlling another or two entities under mutual control. Even if the development service provided is not affiliated with the CDFI, that can be okay as long as the CDFI has a contract or an agreement with the provider through which the CDFI can direct the provision of development services.
The most prevalent credit union development service is providing one-on-one counseling related to budgeting and credit reports during the review of a loan.